I drive my car up to the lake as if there's someone to awake. I haven't been to bed for days, I live in a twilight haze. And I set my heart to the setting sun, and I hope that no one else has done it. And the drinks are never far, open up the bar. I miss you every single day. I wait until I stop your way. I hate the way I stray into these
Wanting to wake up.
Yeah, true.
Switch my volume off.
Fingers paused.
Hey, Elliot, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Bro, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, man. pretty standard. A little bit tired, but we're here.
Yeah, man. Sweet. It's cool. It's like early mornings are kind of special. I know, like you're just talking about your job and having to get up real early, like 3 a.m. sometimes.
Yeah.
It is kind of a special part of the day.
It can be. Yeah, you can catch some really nice stuff. I usually find you get pretty nice views in the morning.
Yeah.
Like kind of calming views, which kind of makes the morning worthwhile.
Yeah, for sure. Does it influence your creative process at all? Going straight into a big question there.
No, of course. It can. I usually find nighttime works better for me. I've always been a night person rather than like a morning person. I just function way better, especially creatively, at night. Yeah, man, staying up late nights, or I think it spans, most of your gigs come late at night, so you usually do the whole late night gig push, maybe a few beers, sleep in, and then by the time you sleep in, you're not a morning person.
Yeah, true.
So unfortunately it's kind of against what helps me creatively, but I don't really think creatively at work, I guess, in terms of musicality.
No.
It's more, there's like a work time. It's like different personas, so you kind of like switch.
Totally, man.
Yeah.
Well, tell us all about your history. Like, what's your musical kind of past?
Sure. I guess you could call it extensive to a certain degree. I was... do you want to start at the start?
Yeah, man. Because essentially, like, you're a drummer and you're in bands, you're a DJ, and you're a producer as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah, trying to. Yeah. Anything musical I'll try and jump into. But it definitely started with drumming, bro. So I was, weirdly enough, born into it. So I mean this in the best way possible, but I didn't really get a choice with it. My family has a massive history of music and musicians, and we've got some pretty cool accolades in the family. And so apparently I was able to, drum in time on pots and pans before I could walk or speak or anything, according to mum. And so I actually have no recollection of not being a drummer.
Yeah.
And then from a really young age, I got lessons, like, 2 or 3. Got my first kit when I was 4.
Wow.
And just carried on, so all the way through school.
That's like the sports stars. That's like the golfers that start real young, or the tennis players, and the parents get them into it real young or whatever. But there's obviously... Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
No, exactly. Well, I was listening to Joe Rogan talking to was it Counting Crows or some band dude the other day, and he said that as he was growing up, his dad was just playing folk songs on the guitar all the time, and he didn't really understand that it wasn't normal.
Sure.
And he'd go around to other kids' place, and there wasn't that landscape of music and that environment. Right. It wasn't kind of happening.
Yeah.
But it sounds like that's what was happening. Like there was a little, what do they call it? An ecosystem, sort of a I
mean, there was music everywhere, man. My dad used to sing to me at night, even.
Yeah.
Just the smallest things. But my stepdad used to have amazing records and amazing CDs, and like really. Well, obscure stuff for people my generation. I used to listen to Depeche Mode and Moby and a few other people, and just interesting collectives from that side of my family ties from when I was a kid. And then yeah, my mum, excuse me, my mum used to play piano and sing. She'd sing, blues and other stuff, and then I was getting, fed electronic music from my schoolmates because that's what we grew up on, and then I was, jazz and classically trained as a drummer, so I was getting fed that.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing, because as a child, you're not too swayed by culture, and you're not too swayed by what you think you should be listening to, and getting exposed to that thing that's really great.
It was amazing. Yeah, variety is the spice of life, but specifically when it comes to music, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, man. So that'll kind of cover the first few years, and then I started joining. I think my first paid gig, or I was either 7 or 8, and I played in a samba band. From memory, the Christchurch samba band or something. I used to get taught by a drum tutor or percussion tutor called Roanna Funk. And she was,
what a brilliant name!
Yeah, amazing, man. Yeah, she was awesome.
Yeah.
But she was a percussionist for the Christchurch Symphony Orchestra.
That's so cool.
Symphony Orchestra. I'm probably screwing that up a little bit, but.
So how was that? Was that was pretty stricto? Because when I see percussion, I learned percussion as a kid as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't continue with it.
Sure.
For some reason, it didn't stick.
Yeah.
But I remember I got taught by a guy called Tom Williams, and it was rudiments for years. For years and years. It was rudiments on a drum pad.
Yes, yeah.
I just wanted to get on the drum kit, but for, 3 or 4 years, we were on this little drum pad.
It's difficult, man. I've taught a few students before, and you have to be pretty open to figuring out what they need from it. So some kids just want to come in, play a rock song. They don't really care about technique. They're only going to do it for a year or two, and then that's their stint in drumming or music or whatever. So at that point, you just want to let them have fun.
Yeah.
And there's other kids that have natural skill. You should probably teach all the rudiments, the techniques, as well as trying to make it, not hell for when they come after school.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, a lot of it,
it's like whiplash.
It can be. There's a few genres in specifically jazz, where if you want to be pushed as a musician or are pushed as a musician, it becomes a slightly less exaggerated version of whiplash, but not by much. Yeah, it can feel like that.
I think, but that discipline has to exist, and that kind of that repetition and that practice. Like, man, you've got to do the time to a certain degree. Like, can you get away with not doing that in life? I don't know. With anything.
It depends what the goal is, though. Like, if you want to be the best at the craft, then no. Yeah. You have to destroy yourself over and over again. But if you want to be in a famous band, it's really hard to kind of show where those steps are that get you towards that famous band. So,
true.
There are some average musicians that are incredibly well known.
Yeah.
Average comparatively to the people that have become prodigies and done it their whole life.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that, like, at all. I fully respect that. They've done really well for themselves, but in terms of technique or skill, they're nowhere near the top dogs.
Ringo was one of the more famous examples of that, probably.
Absolutely.
But you're right. And who's to say? Like, they've got something. They've got something which carries them through.
They've obviously done
and
something,
I bet,
right?
I bet those other people have worked their ass off and sort of put themselves through hell. Man, I bet they probably wish they've got a little bit of that, whatever it is, whether it's luck or
Yeah, but I guarantee you, Ringo probably wished he had better chops. Like, that's the grass is always greener, man. But
exactly, that's true.
Yeah, it depends what the goal is. I don't think you should shy away from, like, learning if you can, get away with it. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So was Rowena pretty? She was down with that sort of style, being a percussionist herself.
No, she was amazing, man. She obviously knew that I was okay at drumming. Yeah. So she did teach me, techniques over a rock song or something like that. So I often learnt techniques and skill and putting that to practice rather than just rocking up and learning a Queens of the Stone Age track or something like that. So she obviously saw that side, but she was never harsh about it. She was down to earth. She was really easy to work with. Yeah, man, amazing teacher. There was a stage where I kind of outgrew her, and I didn't actually realize it was really kind of her, man. I went to get more lessons with her one time, and she told me to go find another teacher.
Oh, yeah.
She said, look, I think you'll benefit from,
Yeah.
This is, because she is primarily a percussionist. She's not primarily a kit player.
Yeah.
And I love percussion, don't get me wrong, but my love is playing kit. Yeah, so she recommended me go find a more specialised kit player versus percussionist.
Yep.
Which was incredibly kind. But I owe a lot of my technique to Roanna, which was amazing. Yeah,
that's it sounds like the foundation had kind of been put down.
Yeah,
Sweet.
absolutely.
And what happened then?
Yeah, man. We're probably getting into high school or something now, maybe. There's probably a few other bits that I'm not remembering.
Yeah,
but
man.
always going to skip stuff out.
I'm just...
Yeah, just curious.
Have you seen Rowena since then?
Oh, man, I occasionally catch her posts on Facebook. She was always quite busy. She had a kid towards the end of my learning with her, tutorage with her. And she had a partner, but other than that, I haven't seen her face to face. I've just seen a couple of posts. Know that she's doing all right, I think. So
cool.
Yeah, man. I would love to, but it's life gets in the way, like we were talking about before. Yeah.
Oh yeah, mate.
Yeah,
totally.
Yep.
Yeah. So, high school. So I ended up my living situation kind of changed around high school, and so I ended up not being in zone for Burnside High, and so I really wanted to get in, and I ended up going for the SMP, the Specialist Music Program.
Cool.
And luckily got into Burnside with that, so purely just based off of music. They let you in out of zone, which was mint, really, and that was really where my playing skyrocketed. I think Burnside, in terms of pushing musicians, is the best you can get in New Zealand, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah, the musicians I played alongside with, the teachers at Burnside, in a fairly constructive way, pushed me heavily.
Exactly.
Yeah, you were surrounded by people that were also being pushed the same way. They were pushing themselves.
Yeah.
Some amazing players came through there, man.
Yeah.
There's a jazz bassist at the moment called Hamish Smith.
Right.
My age was in my classes, and he's touring the world, basically. He's a world-renowned bassist now, jazz bassist.
Wow.
Has his own, quartets and trios and everything. He went over to the States straight away after Burnside, and I can't remember where he ended up, but he basically got scholarships after all of that, and he was the bassist for a lot of the jazz playing that we did through Burnside. So definitely being surrounded by some insane musicians. Won heaps of awards going up to the Wellington Jazz Festival. We took out best jazz trio, best jazz quartet, best big band, whatever it was. We'd always get the platinum award.
Oh, okay.
And then it felt a bit bad, because we'd get the best trio or whatever, and then in that trio you'd still get best jazz vocalist, best jazz drummer, best jazz bass.
Yeah. I see.
Yeah, so you just Burnside stacked awards. Yep.
That's good. I mean, they're doing something well, and So I mean, that's what should follow. I mean, and if it was a negative environment and it was kind of coming from a wrong place, and kind of breaking the kids, kind of crushing them. But it wasn't. It was obviously,
it was
it knew
tough,
when to, it knew that balance.
Yes, yeah,
Because it does
was-
have to exist. That is the real world, you know?
Yeah, it does. I think there was. Oh, how do I word this? I think there was maybe room for more leniency. However, in saying that, like looking back at it now, I'm almost glad there wasn't.
Yeah.
There was some leniency specifically towards me in some of my situations, which I didn't actually realize until later in life. But I am kind of glad that when there wasn't, that it was pushed.
Yeah.
You know, I am glad that kind of brought me out of that.
I think it's
space.
that's quite a wise formula created by people who know.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You got to trust them, right?
Yeah, because they know that discipline is required. It's kind of tough, right? Obviously, but I guess you feel kind of proud of it that you went through it or whatever.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, I actually really respect most of the teachers at Burnside. They did a pretty solid job. Specifically, the music teachers were great, man. Yeah, I actually had a pretty decent high school life, to be fair.
Sweet.
Yeah, man. Yeah. No, I'm pretty stoked. That's not the general consensus, I don't think. But
that's right. I mean, you want to be engaged.
Yeah.
And
But it's so great to hear. Like some teachers have actually done their job.
Yeah, on
and just fucking
100%.
nailed it.
can we talk about some of the ones that didn't? Nah.
Yeah, well, if you want to, yeah, man. Yeah,
That's easy, bro.
let's pick names now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, they were good, man. And there was a really cool variety of them too. Like, you'd have your young, kind of personable, but still, there to teach you kind of guy. You'd have your slightly older, by the book, fucking, like throwing it at you every time. You'd have the, more lenient one that you could kind of feel safe to like go to and have a yarn and whatever. And, it was good, bro. It was, the music department at Burnside was pretty solid while I was there, man. Yeah.
So what happened when you left? Was it kind of, did you feel like, where did you move on to?
Bro, this is where shit hits the fan, man. So after being pushed super hard, winning awards, in a weird way being told you're the best but still not good enough, like the best thing kind of gets to your head, like
that's right.
you do kind of walk around with that aura, especially in high school. It's when you're going through all your changes anyway. And I kind of walked out of high school thinking I was the shit, I still knew I had room to improve and I was trying to be humble and everything, but in the back of my mind, you'd been told and you'd been winning platinum awards for the last 5 years and whatever it was, that when I came out I was like, fuck, I'm the dopest drummer to come out of Christchurch, which is probably quite untrue, but
I mean, well, there's like, I was probably thinking something similar, but I was not good at anything.
No.
So I mean, there's widespread delusion at that age. Potentially.
100%. No. So, I mean, you're still trying to figure out who you are. And, you go
Such
through
a period of growth.
Yeah, man.
Like
you go
say.
through both. I think you flip between hardcore depression and extreme God mode. God complex type thing. So I was battling that quite hard. I think again, my living situation was interesting at that point as well. So I kind of did the exact same thing. I'd flip. One day I'd be horrifically depressed, and the next day I'd be, God complex to the max. So when I came out, I went to Christchurch Jazz School.
Yep.
And I had a terrible time. Yeah, that basically fucked music for me for years. Which is a terrible thing to say. It's probably more me than it was Christchurch Jazz School at all. I don't openly super bag them, so I'm definitely not going to do that. But I found it personally really tough to come from such a crazy environment. You're surrounded by music every day. Like the musicians next to you are top tier. They're going to the States. They're going to Berkeley. They're going all around the world. And because of my living situation, I stayed here and went there. And I was, again, no shame at all in this, but the courses and the people that were coming into those courses, were designed for, I picked up a guitar in 11th, in year 11 at Hagley College. you know, that kind of thing. So I've been playing guitar for 2 to 3 years, and that's great.
Yeah.
Bro, there's no time margin on when you can pick up a guitar or start playing drums. However,
it's going to show.
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. So I think for me, I didn't get pushed at all. I remember having to teach a bassist what a bass cadenza was one time, and I just didn't show up after that, man. Like my band at Christchurch Jazz School was called Where's Elliot, specifically, because I would just never show. And that's not even a joke. We've got like a full photo shoot. We've got like a full write up and stuff, and our full band was just called Where's Elliot. I never turned up, man. After the first term.
Yeah.
I just used to get high, if you can say that, and just stay at home and play games and muck around. And so that really killed my motivation for music, bro. I hated it. The courses weren't for me. It was either, you know, some of the melodic dictation stuff was slightly out of grasp, and I talked to the head at Christchurch Jazz School and said, look, can we make that slightly easier? But the rhythmic dictation and all of that was way too easy. And I said, I'm not being pushed in this area, but I'm being held back in this.
Yeah.
And they said, no, that's how it is. And so I just said, fuck this, and walked, basically.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, yeah.
Well,
that's a tough place to be in, but it's also...
Well, if you knew what you needed, but they weren't capable of adapting.
Well, that was one part. I mean, it's not all on them. You know, it's probably all on me as well. I stopped attending. I probably could have given it more of a shot. I probably could have tried a little bit harder, but at that time, just whatever was going on, it just didn't work, man. Exactly. It just didn't click.
It's like any relationship. It's like kind of 50-50, and the people in a relationship, they're responsible for the good times, but you're kind of responsible for the bad times as well.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I don't really like putting too much blame on them. There's some amazing tutors. There's some amazing musicians. I just personally think it didn't work for me, which is
exactly.
fine, you know.
Yeah, totally.
It sounds like it's maybe a bit more of a conservative framework. Maybe
well,
I don't know. It sounds like
isn't it?
At Build there's a lot more personality and dynamicism, and you could go here and everywhere.
It felt like that, for sure.
It's just the instinct that I got, just listening to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
The instinct I get, can I just share this, Elliot?
Absolutely, of course.
I want to steamroll over you guys, but high school, like, the sky is the limit, and everyone has, like, who are these kids going to be, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
They could be the next rock star or whatever. Polytech, the next step up, it's kind of like business. We're here to make money out of the population, and we want to create this broad kind of product and sell it to people. And we want to get as many people through the door, right? So, and you were kind of coming out
That is exactly what it felt like.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it felt like, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, Polytech was doing what Polytech does, or whatever. University's doing what university does. And these days, it's a business. They're not like kind of pushing the limits of they're not pushing that envelope. Yeah.
It's a really good way of putting it.
That's true.
Which is kind of sad. It's become a car park, kind of. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And, you know, they clip the ticket and all that type of thing. And it sounds like you kind of suffered at that. You know, and it would have lifted up some people. Some people would have got lifted up by that, perhaps.
100%, bro.
Yeah.
I know heaps of musicians now that have come out and been like, fuck, man, Christchurch Jazz School was amazing for me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, which I can fully respect. You know, I still have a really good relationship with a few of the teachers there. Even the head, and I wasn't that nice to him at the time, you know. But I'll see him around occasionally in town and say what's up.
Damn, but it sucked for you.
I think, like I say, the easiest way to put it, where it doesn't pass blame, is it just didn't click personally, you know. But you actually put it in a really perfect manner.
Sorry.
To be fair, no, it was good.
I'm actually listening to what you're saying, Elliot. It's weird.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's because I haven't had too much coffee. I'm not thinking about something else.
No, that was good.
Oh,
man.
that's cool. So, where are you at now?
Sure. So, through jumping back very briefly, through high school, I joined a couple of bands, which was really cool. while all this other stuff was going on. And I think where my dream suddenly went was no longer being that crazy drummer. I think coming out of that jazz school with what happened, I suddenly thought, well, where the fuck am I going with this? You know, like, do I want to teach music? Because then getting a degree in music, great, helpful. But being a famous drummer, no one cares if you've got a degree, man. They just care if you play good music and you're in a well-known band. So I suddenly thought maybe I'm on the wrong path. And so I stuck with the bands. And so I stuck with one of the bands called Soul Drop. And we did pretty well, man. We ended up getting millions of plays on Spotify.
Flip.
Yeah, did some crazy cool stuff with them.
Just as a matter of interest, how does that translate to money? Like, does that millions of plays? Like, yeah,
it's not millions of dollars. I'll tell you that. No, it was okay. I mean, it was enough to.
It does bring in revenue, though.
It does, absolutely, yeah.
There's a bit of mystery for the average Joe Bloggs who are playing Spotify, and it's kind of like, do these musicians get paid?
We do.
Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah. So it's a minimum.
Yeah, it's pretty minimal. I mean, without talking super big numbers or anything, we did all right, man. Like, when we needed money, we had money.
Cool.
So not for personal everyday shit. You know, all of us still had jobs and whatnot. But when, you know, I was living in Christchurch for some of the time when Soul Drop was active, and they were all up in Wellington studying. Mm-hmm. And so for some of the time there, you know, we'd have a gig up in Wellington, or I'd just want a holiday up there and see the band and do some recording and spend 2 weeks and whatnot. And, you know, I'd suddenly just get a plane ticket, just emailed to me, a few other bits and pieces. You know, we'd just go out, spend some money, and then I'd get home, haven't worked for a couple of weeks, and, you know, you'd end up with, you know, $700 in your bank account the next day.
Yeah.
And you know, you might have played one gig up there, but it just goes into the band account, gets split. So there was enough money there, man. But by no means were we rich or anything crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what a few million plays does. Yep. So it can be shit. You know, if someone's bringing in 10,000 plays, you probably got like $100 there, man.
Yeah. Damn.
Like, which is fuck all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that $100 doesn't go very far.
Yeah.
Cumulatively for 10k players, and that's at a guess.
Yeah.
Might be less, might be slightly more. But yeah. So I was with Soul Drop for a bit. We became inactive in the last few years. At which point I joined a couple of other bands. I joined a cover band for a wee bit, just for some money. Became too busy to carry on with them, so they replaced me and the bassist, which was quite cool. And now I'm with Teal Sky, and Tay Renee's band as well, which is quite sweet. So Tay Renee's a dope singer, Christchurch based. Pretty cool, real like R&B vibes, and then obviously you've met Teal Sky before. Kind of super hard to describe, but I'd probably say modern rock, but not exactly prog or anything.
No.
Modern rock with elements of everything else. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, man. So,
and then you kind of fell into the DJing thing as
well.
Yeah,
of course.
When did that happen?
Okay, so I mean, I've always loved electronic music. My go-to, even from, you know, intermediate, high school, whatever, my go-to listening was EDM or trap or dubstep. Or I actually used to. I don't even know if my mum knows this. She probably does. She's smart. But I used to, when I was like 10 years old, man, maybe even like 8 years old, my bedtime would be, you know, 7 o'clock or something. I'd go to bed and I'd stay awake for hours until I heard Mum go to bed, and I had this tiny little like boombox thing that with a tape player on the top, and I would listen to Pulse RFM at like 11 o'clock at night, and they'd be playing dubstep, like real deep, dirty like dub. And I'd record it. I'd like live record it onto my tape deck off my boombox, man. So that started from
That's
real
so cool.
young. Yeah, but it was
I used to do that with
RDU.
RDU. I had a little transistor radio, and I'd listen to RDU. But there was like I think they still have it, Cacophony, the death metal show.
Oh, yeah.
So I listened, or whatever, just the heavy metal show.
Yeah.
Listened to that quite a bit as a kid.
True,
But
yeah.
my sister was kind of more into metal, and then I didn't get exposed to the electronic music till probably 16, 17.
Sure, right, yeah. Just as the clubbing phase came in. Perfect.
Yeah, for sure. P3 was, I think it was called P3 on RDU, and there was a DJ called Slipmat, Matt O'Brien, who would do that, and yeah, there were clubs like the Ministry and Quadrophenia and different things like this going on. Yeah, and I went down a bit of a rabbit hole the other night.
Nice, yeah.
Trying to work out, because I saw you one of your things, and you talked about some of the music that you were into.
Sure.
Like the drum and bass style,
Yeah,
which was Jump Up.
Jump Up, yeah, correct.
Yeah,
man.
And I had never actually kind of heard that.
Oh,
as
bro,
a
there's so many
genre,
subgenres.
I
It's
suppose,
ridiculous. There's, I mean, especially in the EDM scene. I mean, there's subgenres everywhere, but
Yeah.
The EDM scene just, you know, you got the big title dubstep, but then there's 50 subgenres from that, and then there's probably more subgenres from those subgenres. You know, it's just cascading.
Yeah.
Same with, you know, and then that's just dubstep, and then you got trap, and then you got drum and bass, and you got, you know, house and whatnot, and it really depends what you want to call a subgenre.
Yeah.
As to
totally.
you know how many there are, but yeah, man, I pretty much did the same thing.
So Pulsar FM,
Yeah, sorry, no, you're all good. Pulsar FM did the dubstep thing. When I went to high school, I started getting into trap a little bit rather than dubs. I mean, I still kept my roots, so I still loved dubstep.
Yeah.
But in high school, you know, I was in all the jazz bands and whatnot at the same time as listening to heaps of trap and still heaps of pretty gross dubstep. And then my trap phase moved to drum and bass, I guess. Again, continuing dubstep and trap. So I just kind of added on top of rather than taking away or switching it out.
Yeah.
Which was sick. Well, I was still listening to jazz and everything else on the side. But yeah, so I started getting into drum and bass when I was, maybe like 16, 17, I think. I started touching on it when I was 16, 17, I think. Like, I wasn't into subgenres. I was probably into, you know, whatever I found on SoundCloud at the time, which was still very, you know, underground at that stage, I'd say. Before drum and bass became a little bit more mainstream.
What artists can you remember any of the tracks or artists that you were really into then?
I think it came from the dubstep side. So I used to listen to drum step, which is like a combination of drum and bass and dubstep.
Okay.
So it's kind of all your dubstep synths and all your wobbles or whatever you want to call it, screechy noises and shit, but it's just with a faster BPM and the whole drum and bass type beat. So I think I started there. And a lot of the time it was just a tune that I already knew and a drum step version of it. So unfortunately I probably couldn't name any artists. It was a long time, but
that that's interesting how that happens. There is so much evolution of music within. I mean, that's what it's kind of based on, really, isn't it?
Especially
sampling.
Especially now. I mean, there's so much access to everything, and everyone can put a spin on any track you want. You know, especially in the EDM scene. You know, you might find a pretty well-known track that comes out, you know, tomorrow, and then the week after it, there's a house version, a drum and bass version, a dubstep version, a trap. But you know, you've got 50 different remixes of this one tune, with everyone's own personal genre / style on it. You know, or crossing between both.
It's infinite, right? Infinite cascade.
100%.
Just goes on and on forever.
Yeah, it does, man. I think music will always be like that, though.
Totally.
There's so much interpretation that, I mean, I've listened to music and it doesn't even sound like music, you know, like, but to someone that's musical, you know,
for sure.
Totally.
I mean, but also in the free jazz kind of style as well.
I've heard some pretty non-musical free jazz before, bro. Like that's wild.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I find that it's really kind of fragmented and splintered, and there's shards of, like, especially with the rise of the internet
Yeah,
and you know the speed of communication that happens. Like when I started just attending raves and dance parties and stuff, you know, there were stores in Christchurch bringing in vinyl from the UK, and the DJs would freaking be ordering music, and it would get flown over and all of that type of thing, and it was not the same world in which we live now.
Yeah, right. Of course.
It's changed so much.
Yeah. Speaking of, on a very, very quick side tangent, I don't know if this is just a meme or not, but the other day I found out about plutonium jazz. Do you know what that is?
No.
It was like do you know what it is?
No, mate, I just love the name. I love the name.
It could completely be a meme, but apparently, like, I'm leaning towards meme because of how stupid it is, but someone else mentioned it too, and I thought suddenly maybe this was real, but basically, back in the day or something, they used to play free time jazz to the same rhythm as is it a Geiger counter or something, like the counter?
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
it is.
the text.
Yeah. Radiation.
Yeah. So you know, like the clicking that it makes. Yeah. So this could be bullshit.
But that's all over the place. I thought the closer you were to the radiation, I thought it kind of sped up.
Kind
of like a metronome.
Geiger counter.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, so they used to have like a little bit of radiation on stage, and like the dancers would have like, guess what, bro. But then apparently they stopped it because everyone got radiation poisoning. Everyone was freaked. But that could totally be bullshit. I'm leaning more bullshit.
Like, because surely when did the metronome get invented? That was...
Well, no, this is like a whole free jazz thing. It like wasn't. It wasn't
just because.
Like, just because.
Something.
Yeah, correct.
Oh, because it's kind of drawing upon the like the spiritual energy of the plutonium.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, I'm pretty sure a metronome was invented at that point, but
that would be.
It's just like a free jazz thing.
I can definitely imagine someone doing that. It's kind of like the crystals having energy or something like that, and kind of it rippling out.
Yeah.
Some hippies getting into that.
Don't fact check me on that, but there is a meme with it at least.
I saw a guy the other day eating. I saw a guy the other day eating. I don't even know what he was eating, but he was eating radioactive material.
Eh?
It was radioactive material of some sort.
Oh, like on YouTube or something.
Yeah, it was. He did it in the 1950s or 60s to kind of. There was a lot of fear around nuclear power and stuff, and this guy was determined to dispel the fear, and he ate. Supposedly, he ate some of that stuff.
Did he die from radiation poisoning?
No, I don't think so.
Ah, true.
That was the thing. That was the thing. But who knows whether it was real as well.
You've got to be careful with what you think you know. I mean, it's like the guys drinking Agent Orange from the Vietnam War to show the troops that this is harmless, guys. Look, I'm drinking a glass of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's that dude that ate like an entire plane worth of metal, right? there's
Yeah.
No,
there's
people that eat
Light
some weird
bulbs.
shit that I probably wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, but he's just out there, man. He's doing his thing.
Yeah, bro. If he loves it, then by all means,
Creative.
Sorry, that was a weird side tangent, but Heard some music. Yeah, man. Plutonium jazz.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's got here, I just looked it up, plutonium jazz. A fictional genre of jazz music said to be popular in the 1940s.
Fictional.
Where bass players attempted to synchronize the beats of their instruments with the clicks of a Geiger counter. I don't know.
Well, there you go.
It's
just funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just what it says.
There you go. I never put in the time
But I
to
mean,
look it up.
it's weird enough to be true, right?
Potentially.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, I think humanity's like gotten to the point where anything goes. You know, there's always one person that's so far out of the box that they'll do it.
Yeah. I was listening to 9 Inch Nails.
Oh, yeah.
I listened to a bit of 9 Inch Nails last night as well because I was kind of like, there was an album there was one of the albums which I kind of came across as a teenager, which had that real industrial feel.
Yeah, cool.
Really harsh and discordant, and
yeah,
it really kind of, I remember it being too much for me as a teenager and kind of putting it aside. But then I went back to it last night because I was like, shit, some of the stuff that I was listening of yours and stuff, some of the noises were kind of reminding me of
it'd be horrendous.
That real kind of
yeah.
That
style. That's fair. I think some of the noises that I make, and even, you know, a lot of people in the drum and bass or EDM community make at the moment are pretty. I enjoy it, but they're horrific to maybe a better tuned ear.
Yeah.
You know?
What was the track that Camo MC was on and you were on?
And
Life is Like a Movie.
Yeah, like a movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, that's got a cool story. So Dreps or Dr. EPs is a massive UK MC, absolutely massive in the scene. And I linked up with Camo quite a long time ago for one of my first D&B DJ gigs. Basically, he basically was the one who gave me the shot to test out DJing to a live crowd. And he quite enjoyed, what I was up to and what kind of style I was playing and my production and everything else when I decided to get a little bit more full-fledged into it. And yeah, so he picked me up. He wanted to do a track. He contacted Dreps, and Dreps flew over for a music video.
Whoa.
Yeah, man. So that was pretty cool. So I've got a music video with Dreps. I'm not like 110% keen on how I made that tune. I'm still pretty green to that side of things, to the production side. I mean, I've been listening to it for ages. I've been around it for ages, but production's a different game, man. It takes ages to stop making shit tracks. In fact, I'd probably guarantee you never do.
Well, what you were saying before about that first track that you released, the one that has... what was it called?
It's called Your Eyes.
Yeah.
It's got 300,000 or over 300,000 plays on SoundCloud, but that's like my worst tune, man. I absolutely hate it.
Isn't that fascinating?
I would have taken it down if it didn't have that many plays. Like if it only reached a couple thousand, it'd be down. I hate it. It's the worst piece of production. I mean, it was my first track, so obviously, in theory, it should be the worst track that I ever produced. But it's clearly the worst track I ever produced. I was using. I was telling you before, I used completely free software. I didn't pay a cent for that track, and it still got picked up by a label. So, I mean, it's cool, bro. I'll take it. I'm glad people are supporting, but it's slightly embarrassing. Like I get a lot of mails being like, "Yo, I love that track" or something, but and it might not be embarrassing to that person, but it's embarrassing to me. Especially knowing that there's other producers that could listen to it and go, bro, this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And not just to the normal listener. It's more the people that are in the know, that know how bad that actually is. Yeah.
So what's that process like, pulling it all together? Sure. How long does that take?
Anywhere between, a day to, I could maybe crack out a tune in an evening if I had the right mindset, and if it was a slightly easier tune or whatever the ideas were, if they just came naturally, then I could smash it out in a few hours and chuck a very quick master on it. I've done it before a couple gigs. I've come up with a bootleg 2 hours before a gig. I've smashed out the idea, just the first drop or something. I don't need the whole song. I've mixed it down and mastered it within an hour and a bit, and still driven to my gig and made it and played that tune out that night. So it's definitely doable within a few hours. Sometimes I've been sitting on a tune for half a year. I've got a couple collabs actually at the moment that are still in the works, and I'm pretty sure I recorded vocals for them halfway through last year. Depends, man. Depends on the mood. It's really weird. If you don't release that song, or if you don't finish that song there and then, you change as an artist so rapidly that if you leave it for a couple months and come back to it, it's done. You no longer like it. By the time any of my tracks have come out, I'm already over them. I don't think I've liked a single track after it's come out as much as I did before it was out.
That's interesting. That's
a fascinating process.
That's speed.
It's weird, bro. And everyone else is hearing it for the first time, and you're done with it. You don't even want to play it out at gigs. You don't want to.
You hear that from musicians all the time, complaining about their hits that become big. They can resent them.
Yeah, man. It's weird. The hits are never the one that you expect either. This was quite a shock. I found this out with Soul Drop when we basically put up this EP, and it was all recorded in this shitty lounge with like 4 microphones. You know, we had a drum kit set up in this really badly acoustic setup lounge with 4 mics, and that was it. Like, I'm pretty sure we put 1 on the snare, 1 on the kick, and 2 overheads. So there was no tom noise, heaps of cymbal noise. You know, it was a pretty bad mix, and we did this EP with that, except for one. So for one song, we went to the studio because we didn't have much money at the time. So we kind of picked out our favourite song and the one that we thought would go viral. Went to the studio for that one, got it really nicely done up. You know, it actually sounds great. It's mixed and mastered amazingly, heaps of production on it. And one of the tunes that we liked the least was the one that hit like 1.5 mil just within like a year, bro. Like it was crazy. We put it up, it was at, you know, a few thousand, and then we checked like a week later and it was at like 100K.
So how do you sort of like understand that? Like, what's going on? That disconnect between the artist and the audience?
Oh man,
like, but there's something there. Like, they're picking up on something, and that
there is.
Yeah,
I think, man, it's not always about the tune though.
There's something like an energy,
massive question, man.
Yeah,
yeah.
There's so many factors.
Yeah.
There's so many factors. Maybe
that's a great mystery.
Maybe one mate listened to it. Maybe one mate listened to one track off the album, and it was the most dog shit track off the album. But that's the one that gets listened to purely because someone just clicked on that and told his mate about it. So obviously that person's going to go straight to that song, which means that their mate's going to do that too, which means that song inherently already has more plays than the rest. And then maybe that's the one that gets put on a playlist. Because Spotify recognizes that, you know, more people are listening to that one, so that one gets playlisted and the rest don't. And then all of a sudden you've got this horrifically dog shit tune that one dude listened to or a few people listened to, and now it's pushed out into playlists.
There's something appealing about that dog shit tune.
That could be
There's
true.
something appealing about that.
Yeah, that could absolutely be true.
This is like, you know, like creatively it's across the board. Like Anthony Burgess, who wrote a Clockwork Orange.
Yes.
He wrote a Clockwork Orange. He wasn't even that into that book.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that's his like most famous work. And that's freaking awesome, that book. The language and so forth. But that was just a minor little thing for him. And it turns out to be his best known work.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think, like you were saying before, a lot of bands do resent their big tunes. And sometimes it's not even a resent, sometimes it is just an outright, that tune is just crap. And everyone loves it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it happens more often than you think. Hey, like it's mostly every band with big tunes, they hate the biggest tunes.
Yeah, I mean, it probably happens in all areas. Like, there's probably scientists that are freaking, you know, they're disappointed where we're at in society. You know, we've got this, that, and the other, but why don't we have this science? We've got it in the lab or some shit like that. This is our best work. Why are we still pissing around with this? And who knows? Maybe it happens with surgeons. I don't know.
Oh, sure.
And like,
you'd hope not. Hey, that heart transplant, that's the most dog shit one I've done.
Yeah, perhaps not.
Hopefully not.
More along the lines of sort of the advancement of technology. Sort of like, oh, we could be doing this amazing thing. We're still, you know, doing this old school method. Yeah, who knows? Yeah,
it's a curious phenomenon that seems to be part of the creative process.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just music though. It's every creative process. You know, artists they'll do a massive piece, it'll be famous, and they'll hate it. 100%. You know, they hate the brush strokes, they hate the paint they use.
Yeah,
they hate
I guess they're just really into
sculpture, and you go, oh fuck that shit, and blah blah blah. But now it's stuck up in the city, and he's got to every time he drives past it, you know, it's like, fuck, man, that's the shit. I know that nose isn't right or something.
Oh,
it's like this creative.
I guess
there's this creative howl.
Yeah, but you've got to get it out there. You've got to get it out there so you can move past it.
Yeah, but it's better that you made it than never freaking made it.
Exactly.
That's a good point. It's easy to self-critique, man.
It is.
It's super easy to self-critique. In fact, it's more. I've always said this. I reckon creative artists in any industry, they're way more susceptible to, depression and all of that. Just having to be more in touch with your emotions. I mean, generally you draw from your emotions when you create. And a lot of those times it's easier to create when you're sad. I think I've talked to a lot of artists and they tend to create when they're more depressed rather than happy. It's easier to draw from stronger emotion.
I mean, you're running a tight line, across the abyss.
Yeah, 100%.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, and so I think when you're, when everyone says, "Oh, I hate this about this and I hate this about this," I mean, you said it really well. It's better to put it out there to a certain degree. It's better to put it out there than
you don't want
just
to put everything
do nothing. No, you don't. No. But I think that the reason it comes across is because you're, again, on that tight line of...
you lean into that kind of feeling.
The
you really lean
negativity,
into it. Yep, and kind of extract everything that you can from it. And our culture plays a massive part in everything as well, Like, and that track, like a movie, that kind of actually plays upon that idea. Like, your life is like a movie, and it's kind of like a it's not sort of actual reality. It's kind of like you're living at the higher thing. Like a movie, you're jumping off bridges, or whatever's happening. No one gets killed or no one gets hurt and stuff. They're superhuman.
I wish that tune that you're talking about had that much vision and depth when we wrote it, but it's got nothing to do with anything cool like that. It's just trying to be cool and get drunk.
I mean, the music itself is kind of like, the freaking Transformers or something.
Yeah, man. It's I think that's what I like about.
It's a very visual. It's a very visual kind of music, I reckon.
Sure. Yeah. The sound design, bro. I think pushing the limits again to a degree is what's cool, man. Like, how can you make that horrifically high pitch scream noise still audibly nice to listen to? Like Skrillex or Borg or some dubstep artists. How did they make something that actually technically sounds like trash? How do you turn that into something where people go, "Fuck, that sounds good"? Like, I really dig that. Like, how far can you push that sound design in terms of horrific noises and still make it audible?
Yeah, well, it's like a recipe. It's like you're building a recipe, you're creating a cake, and you're just putting in a few random flavors in there to kind of accents.
It's the ultimate alchemy, trash to diamonds.
Yeah,
Dave and I went and saw was it Dig the Gig?
Oh yes,
Dig the Gig a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And man, one of the songs, this guy, he did this freaking awesome scream.
Yeah.
He totally freaking nailed it.
Yeah, right. Like vocal scream.
Yeah, vocal scream. On the mic. Yeah. Man, it was so fucking good. Just in that moment, you just know that guy just freaking nailed it.
That was
It pulled you into the dimensionality of that scream.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It just drags the audience into their place. Like, feel that vibe, and that's that magic vibe, man.
I mean, there you go. That's a really good point. As screams inherently don't exactly sound good. Like, if you're screaming at someone, doesn't exactly sound good. Like, it's not something you'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I want to listen to that. But within music, suddenly a scream is emotional, or it's drawing, or it's like it does something for that song or for you.
Sort of like that scream saying, "Remember this, remember to live," or "Remember this stuff you've all forgotten."
Well, it can say anything, really. That's like it depends on the artist. The artist might have a different view to the listener. The listener might 100%. Go, "Yo, that scream puts me back in a dark place and I want to feel like that," or "That scream makes me feel free, like it releases me," whatever it is. Or they just go, "Shit, that sounds cool," that hypes me up, that makes me energized or angry or whatever it is, like it could just be something real small. There's not always meaning. I think there's always meaning for the artist, but there's not always meaning for the listener.
No, I think it's also the reverse is true, where Dave's still, saw that meaning in your song.
Sure.
And you go, "Oh no,
right, okay."
So
Yeah,
we're all
yeah,
singing
right.
through our own filter.
No, that's true.
That must flip
Yeah.
back and forth between the creator and the listener.
Yeah, no, that's a good point actually. Yeah, I think sometimes we can get lost, like fishing for meaning, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything bad. That you're just drawing on, what it means to you, and then trying to figure out maybe what it meant to the artist. Or I think there's some
I wouldn't want to
niceties
get
knowing.
into our head too much about it, but it just felt raw and good.
Yeah.
And that felt good. And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you just totally, the dude nailed it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because a scream
That's
is,
cool.
I think a good scream is quite difficult to pull off.
Yes. Yeah. Technically, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the last track you released was at Galley?
No, it was actually a tune called Lost that was
Lost, yeah.
Yeah, signed to Sub 180. That's the most recent. Galley was the prior most recent. But Galley's done really well, man. Lost didn't really hit the mark. I thought it was a cool track, but didn't really do it. I think the production thing is mostly for me. Like, I'd love it if it goes well and it goes viral, and I just whatever, that would be cool. But I actually don't really mind if like 3 people hear it and I've just made it myself. I keep a lot of my tunes as dubs. Like, there's maybe 10 release tracks that I've got up on collectively SoundCloud and Spotify, but I probably have like 40 tracks just on my USB of mine, plus more in the works. I've probably got another 40 in the works and 40 completed ones that a few people might have, but that are primarily just for me. I just enjoy doing it.
So no one do people release albums these days, or is it just kind of...
Yeah, it's going to be an EP. If it's... a lot of stuff is EDM focused these days.
Yeah.
And albums aren't common.
Yeah.
That's not to say that people don't do them. I think once you're a bigger artist, you can do an album. Like, if Skrillex puts out an album, every tune gets listened to.
Yeah, true.
But if I put out an album
Yeah.
versus putting out a single, people don't want to hear 10 of my tracks in a row.
No.
That's not really what it's about. It's either a good track or it's not.
Yeah.
And I think one track at a time is fine until you are just so
For
good
sure.
that
Yeah.
everything will get listened to.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's pretty uncommon. People do EPs, like a 3 or 4 track EP is more common, but not really albums.
So you've got stuff that you're working on at the moment?
Heaps, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, in production and band.
Are you
and
going in a
everything.
different direction from those Lost and Galley, or...?
Yes and no. Because I'm still quite green. I've only been producing properly for like 2 to 3 years. I think my first track I released 2 to 3 years ago, so that was when I kind of really first started. And some people have been producing for 8-9 years and just only gotten noticed now. So, I've got a long way to go, man. So I'm still finding my sound.
Exactly.
Most of my tunes are different, which I
that's
do and
true.
I don't like.
Yep.
I think...
Yeah, I noticed that. So what genre do you feel like you fit into?
Well, that's the thing, is what I enjoy listening to and what I would love to make, I'm not actually that good at making. So it's weird. I kind of make what I think sounds good at the time, but anything, man. Like, I could make a really slow, like, liquid D&B track if I'm in the right mood, and if I think that sounds good at that particular time.
Yep.
And then 2 minutes later, I could get bored of making that, and 2 minutes later I've got a fresh idea for a super jump uppy, screechy something. It's
Do
it's really
other
difficult.
artists like that as well? Or
Yeah, yes and no.
it's just a phase of your development kind of thing?
You want to get some cohesion,
Yeah, exactly. True.
but I don't think there's much or many issues in kind of jumping subgenres or genres too bad. There's a lot of DJs out there that'll make like a banging house tune and then like a massive D&B tune. Quite common. It depends what you want to get known for. I've got a real good bro over in the UK who's pretty famous, and he makes D&B predominantly, jump up D&B.
Yep.
And he made one UK based tune. when he was kind of getting known, he made one UK bass tune, and after that, he was known as a UK bass artist. But he's only got one.
That's right.
For a long time, he was known as a UK bass artist. But yeah, I think people should stop worrying about like whether you fit into a genre.
True.
You know, if you go
That's
too
what it
far
sounds
out,
like,
maybe chuck up a new name.
Yeah,
but
true.
just make music, bro. Like
Exactly.
it doesn't matter if someone enjoys it, they enjoy it. If you enjoy making it, why not make it? You know, like I don't think that matters too much.
No.
And you can go song by song. You know, like people. There's very, very few artists that I enjoy every single song without fail from them. So if I'm making 12 different subgenres, and you go through my page and you go, yo, I like 9 out of 12 of those. And don't listen to the other 3. I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like I don't really mind.
No, man.
It's I think just make what you like or make what sounds all right.
Yeah. So, what gigs have you got coming up?
I've got a gig with Tay Renee's band this Saturday at Darkroom. Actually, it's another small one, and then we've got it's a lot of live drumming stuff coming up. Not so much DJing. That's kind of gone on the back burner for a wee bit. So we've got Tay's on Saturday at Darkroom. We got Go Live with Teal Sky. We're playing at Go Live, so that'll be quite cool. And then we've got another one in August for Tay Renee's band, but I can't remember. Oh, it's at Loons. There you go. And Go Live Festival's at the Christchurch Town Hall, I believe. Yeah. So that'll be cool. But yeah, not many DJing things, man. I kind of turned down a lot of gigs for the DJing. Got a lot of projects on, so
Yeah.
I had to drop something. I haven't dropped the production, but the live DJing
I see.
is
I see.
not as much of a big
priority.
thing for me. Yeah, man.
Oh, cool, man. Well, cheers, Elliot. Thanks for coming in.
No, thank you for having me, bro.
It's real fascinating. I love, because I was kind of into dance music at one point in time of my life. I love hearing, and I'd love to go along to one of your gigs that you would recommend.
Yeah, sure.
To get, like, it was cool going to Dig the Gig to see some of the bands play. I'm kind of, since I've been going back into it, and I've just been playing it at the cafe as well.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
It's nice to hear again.
I wouldn't mind
And
going to see
thought-
that gig at the Darkroom on Saturday.
Yeah, Tay Renee's band. Yeah, bro. Yeah, sure. It's not my usual genre. It's very R&B, lo-fi, slow stuff.
Sounds good.
But Tay's a dope singer. The band is amazing, man. It's comprised of an amazing keyboard player called Alice Tozer, and then we've got Alex Glennie on guitar, and he's savage, man. And then so I've played with them actually at jazz school. There you go. I still met some cool people at jazz school. But yeah, so I met them at jazz school. They carried on, and yeah, they're amazing musicians. We've got a bassist, Rob. He's pretty dope. I haven't played with him before this band, but he's meant to work alongside with, and obviously wonderful Tay. She's savage on the mic. Yeah,
Freaking awesome.
Yeah, man. Music is awesome.
yeah.
It is.
Cheers.
Cheers, bro.
bro.
Thank you.
Thanks.